Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the BenZone here and the latest episode of Three BenZone. I am Ben Cornett. Um, Tonight, we're going to talk about hoops here, college basketball. Um, a very good week in college basketball. The rankings came out, and let's show you those the AP top 10 rankings right here. And there it is. Purdue is number one still. Had a good game yesterday against Michigan State, took care of business. As you can see, Tennessee got the 2 spot. That was because Alabama um, lost to Oklahoma this past Saturday in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. So, excuse me. So that put Alabama all the way down to number 4. Houston stays at number 3. Arizona number 5. Virginia, who I believe beat the Syracuse Orange tonight. Let me double check that. I just got home, so um, let me look at that real quick. And yes, they beat them 67-62, so Virginia took care of business. Kansas State, number 7. Kansas, number 8. UCLA and Texas, who right now, Texas is playing Baylor right now. They're leading 33-31 at halftime in a very good Big 12 matchup. That rounds out your top 10. It's a pretty good list here. I mean, these are teams that are very capable of going far in the NCAA tournament. As you'll notice, the right there, 3 of the top 10 teams in that pool right there are in the Big 12. And then you also got 2 of the top 4 teams in the SEC. So they definitely, the SEC and the Big 12 are definitely proven they are some of the top conferences in basketball. The Pac-12, they're showing up nicely as well. Arizona number 5, UCLA number 9. This is looking really good for these teams right now. Like I said, Baylor's playing Texas. Baylor's ranked number 13. So if Baylor can get a win tonight and take care of business this weekend, they could see themselves in the top 10. So like I said, this is the top 10 is going to pretty much change because we're seeing a lot of, teams go down. It's conference play, so it's going to happen. But so far this year, you can't really say that there's that one team that's really standing out of the pack. Maybe Purdue, but again, the Big Ten probably not as strong as other conferences. In fact, the Big Ten only has 2 teams, in the top 25. So they got a lot of work to do. We'll see what Purdue can do. Once it gets to March. Edie's a very good, player. He looks like a lottery pick. They're probably the best. They're the best team in that conference, but unfortunately, there's a lot of teams like the Michigan States, the Wisconsin's, not playing as well. Maryland, they're not as good this year as years past. Indiana's the only other ranked team in the top 25. So it'll be interesting to see down the stretch, how many teams the Big Ten can get in for the NCAA tournament. Right now, looking at the bracketology, I think there's only 4 teams that are out of the Big Ten as we speak. I believe it's Purdue, Indiana, Wisconsin, and I think Maryland's in. I think they're one of the last 4 in. So they got a lot of work to do. Somebody's got to beat Purdue. It can happen. I don't think Purdue's the best team in the country. I know they're number 1, but if I had to pick a number 1 team right now overall, I still think Kansas is, with the experience, is probably the favorite to win the national title. Now, they struggled lately, but until Saturday night when they got a huge win at Kentucky. So That's a good win. They can bounce back from that. They got a big game coming up tomorrow night against Kansas State, number 7 versus number 6, I think it's number 9 versus number 8. I'm sorry. So that's a big game, for both teams. K State got the win a couple weeks ago against Kansas in Manhattan, Kansas. So now they go to Lawrence, Kansas, the rematch. It should be a fun game. Pretty much the Big 12, they have 6 teams ranked in the top 25. And you're probably looking at maybe 7 teams advancing to the NCAA tournament. It's just the conference is loaded. And it's good for the conference as well. These teams battle because it's going to get them ready for the NCAA tournament, and it's going to make them tough to beat. So you can really see, depending on where they're seated and what regions they're going. It wouldn't shock me if we get 2 or 3 Big 12 teams in the Final Four. That's just how good this conference is, from top to nearly bottom. I mean, there's really no bad team. So yeah, it's a very good conference. And we'll see what happens down the road. Right now, Baylor and Texas are playing. Texas is up by 2 at halftime. Kansas State, Kansas tomorrow, big game. And then Kansas has to go to Iowa State. So on Saturday, it's a big week for the Jayhawks. Big week for Big 12 hoops. So can't wait to see those games. But before we go any further, I want to just say real quick that we lost a basketball broadcaster this past weekend, or last week, I should say. Billy Packer passed away. He was 82 years old. Old school fans like myself listened to him, call Final Four games. He called over 20 Final Fours. Very unique broadcaster, had his own style. Some people liked him, some people hated him, but he spoke his mind. You got to respect that, but he is an iconic voice in college basketball, and he is, he finished up in 2008 calling college basketball games, but he's still a legend in my opinion, and it's one of the best, one of the smartest, broadcasters I ever heard, listened to. He'll always be a part of my, fandom growing up, watching the Final Four, the NCAA tournament. Him and Jim Nance would call the Final Four every year. Just a unique voice, and he will be sorely missed. So, Billy Packer, rest in peace. All right. So, people ask me too. We have a thing called a BPI, a basketball power index, and what that is that the index. Let's show you real quick. It is the College Basketball Power Index. It's a measure of team strength that is meant to be the best predictor of performance going forward. The reason I bring that up is because, it kind of tells you, and again, it's a predictor. It's not a guarantee, but it kind of tells you where teams going forward or how they're going to perform. And I thought it was very interesting to look at the top 10 teams that are in that BPI ranking. So it has Houston number 1, Tennessee number 2, UCLA number 3, Alabama number 4, Texas number 5, Purdue's number 6, UConn, which is in the lower 20s in the rankings, they're number 7. Baylor is number 8. And get this one, number 9 is Creighton. They're not even in the top 25. They're not even in the top 35, but they're number 9. And number 10 is Kansas. So, when you look at the BPI, it tells you, as far as all kinds of things, the strength of schedule, home games, road games, how they're going to do. So it seems like to me with Creighton being in that BPI, it tells me that they got an easy schedule down the stretch, so they could pick up some wins and, help their, built their resume for the NCAA tournament. So it's a very interesting concept. But I thought it was unique because, you know, Creighton's not even a top 25 team, but yet based on the, BPI as far as strength of schedule and, home games, road games, the conference play, um, it's very unique. So they feel like they have the best chance to, elevate their stock come March, and they could be a dangerous team down the road. So just thought that was very interesting. Thought I'd point that out to you. So what I'm going to do now is take a break, and then we're going to go to some comments in this section. So give me about 30 seconds. All right, guys, everyone, thank you for welcome back to the 2-3 BenZone. We're going to go ahead and read some comments here. Section. Let's check it out. Let's see, Sean Spencer, what's going on? Sean, how you doing, man? I'm going to get you on. If you're available, I can try and get you on right now. I just came home late, so I wanted to do a show tonight, kind of do a quick one. But with work and everything, I didn't have time to 100% set it up, but I still wanted to do the show, get everything as good as I can. So I got to get you on one of these times. I do apologize for that. I know you want to come on here. So Sean Spencer, so many great games this weekend. Yes, there are. And speaking of that, Saturday, like I mentioned, one of the games is Kansas and Iowa State. So that's a big game in the Big 12. Another one is number 25 Auburn. They're going up against number 2 Tennessee. Big SEC showdown. Auburn kind of up and down lately. They're one of those teams that, last year they lost Jabari Smith to the NBA. So they're trying to replace him. They have a chance. They can beat some teams, but I think the inconsistencies kind of hurt him a little bit. Bruce Pearl, he's a good coach. He's going to get that turned around, but if they can get on a streak, watch out. They can beat anybody, at any time. So I'm looking forward to that game as well. What happened to the Michigan teams? Oh, well, Sean, I mean, they're just not that great this year. Michigan State, I kind of understand. They lost some players. Michigan, that's a head scratcher because, they got Hunter Richardson, and he's one of their best players on the team. Juwan Howard, it surprises me that this team isn't as good as they are. I think, defensively they're not getting stops. They get off to slow starts in games. Foul trouble has kind of hurt some of their better players, in key games. So that's what I think. Michigan State, a lot of youth, they're kind of rebuilding a little bit, but yeah, it's the Michigan one's a head scratcher for sure. So as you can see, yeah, State and Michigan both lost by 20. Yeah. Again, I just think that for Michigan, the thing that surprises me is, they got some really good shooters on that team, and they're not stepping up as I was hoping for. They should be a top 25 team, but like I said, the foul trouble to key players, defensively they're not always sharp. Rebounding has kind of hurt them a bit. So yeah, they got to clean that up. Time is slowly running out. There's 1 month to play in college basketball, and then you got the Big Ten tournament, and then you got the NCAA tournament. So it'd be nice to see Michigan pick up some wins, especially against some of the better teams in the conference. So Sean says Edie is legit, but if you have a fast-paced team that shoots the lights out, Purdue can be taken down. Yeah. Um, and that's the thing, I think sometimes Purdue relies too much on Edie. They need some better scoring from their other players. They got to step up, take the load off him. And yeah, if you can run on this team, Matt Prater is more of a half court style coach. You got to speed him up. And if you can do that, I agree. They can be beaten. So Kansas State will shock some people. Oh, absolutely. They got some very good players. And, I forget the coach's name. I'm going to look it up real quick. Because he's really turned this program around. And let's see. Yeah. Jerome Tang, he's done a great job, building that program. Bruce Weber was there for a while. He had some success with that team, with that program. They kind of had some down years. But Jerome Tang, he's really surprised people. His player, you got Noah. Looking at some of these guys. Sorry about that. Got some of these players on the team. He's got, he's got a couple guys that are even named to the Wooden list. So, Johnson, Noel, those are two of their best players. They've really, put this team over the top, and they are going to shock some people. I think this team, again, I said with the Big 12, they could have up to 2-3 teams playing the Final Four. They're that good. They're that loaded. So they're very fun to watch. Kansas State can shock some people. Sean says only one ACC team. Are we on a down year, or is the rest of the league stepping up? Well, I think you could say it's a little bit of both. You look at Clemson right now; they're on the come up. Virginia's Virginia. Tony Bennett's done a great job. He's a national championship coach. He's got the pieces. The Duke, they're in a transition right now, obviously, from Coach K to John Shire. Duke lost some players as well. They're trying to replace them. Wake Forest, I thought we're going to be better, but, they've had some good victories, but they've also had some tough losses. Pittsburgh's getting better, and the head scratcher, Sean, your team, North Carolina, Baycott's been injured. They're not getting enough good performances from their key players. And, I think with North Carolina, the expectations were very, very high. And I think it's overwhelmed that team, and that can happen sometimes with young players, that had a taste of that national title game, getting that far. And then all of a sudden now you're expected to be the top team, not only in the ACC, but in the country. And they haven't lived up to those expectations. So, is there still time for North Carolina to come back this season and make a run? Absolutely. They're very talented, good backcourt. Mondo Baycott's their best player. If they can get it going, if you get healthier, they can definitely make another run. It's not out of the realm of impossibility. They can still do it, in my opinion. I can see Purdue getting shocked in the tournament. Yeah. Again, it's like you said, Sean. Anybody that can speed them up and make it a fast-paced game where you have to spread the floor on them, especially in the open court. They can be beaten, and there are teams that can do that. Kansas State can do that. like in Arizona can do that. Teams like that, if they have to match up with them, heck, even some teams in the Mountain West can do that. Some of these lower conferences, no, I shouldn't say lower, some of the mid-level conferences, the American Athletic Conference can do that. Teams out there, so it can happen. Indiana looks pretty solid. Yeah, I agree. Mike Woodson doing a good job there, turning that program around. I'd question Kansas inside. They can shoot the lights out, but their opposing team had a dominant big man. Kansas might struggle. Yeah, they have to play Purdue with 80. With Kansas, though, I look at him. Jalen Wilson. He's a great player. Dick's a great shooter, but he's a freshman as well. So they do have to shoot the ball very well to succeed, and that's really the kind of team Kansas is. It's kind of like the Golden State Warriors. They shoot the 3-pointers or they lose. They either hit them or they don't hit them. So, and TCU went in there and dominated them. I think Kansas had a bad shooting game in that. And that's just an example of what can happen. And unlike the NBA, the NCAA tournament, you're one and done. It's not a 7-game series. So if Kansas can't shoot the ball, if they can't get their offense going, they could lose easily. Yes, rest in peace, Billy Packer. Yeah. I'm free tomorrow night around this time. Okay, I'll try and do a show with you. Just give me the time, DM me, and I'll let you know, man. Would love to have you on, Sean. Again, I apologize. I came home from work late, but I still wanted to get a show, even though it's, all over the place, discombobulated, still wanted to try and put on a show. So, Scott, thank you for tuning in. Go Mizzou. Yeah, they're another team that could, the SEC, they're kind of a dark horse. They've had some good wins this year, and they're another team that can, if they get in the tournament, they could be that like 10 seed beating a 7th seed or an 11th seed beating a 6th seed. That could happen. So the SEC is a good conference too. You got some good teams there. Zagnif Productions, what's up, man? Hey, how you doing tonight? Zagnif, thanks for tuning in. West Virginia war blowing Auburn out at one point. Yeah. West Virginia, that's interesting team. I think they can get in the tournament, but they need to start piling up some wins, especially on the road. They struggle really bad on the road, but they're a good home team. I mean, what happened to them this weekend? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Scott, do you guys spend all your time watching sports? How do you keep all these teams and players straight? I'm lucky if I can remember what I went to the kitchen for. Scott, when was the last time you were in the kitchen, Scott? What'd you get? Let me know in the comments. Sean, excuse me. Baycott's health worries me. Last year, we rode our starting 5 all the way to the title game. We are figured out ways to get better. Yeah, again, I got to look at the roster, but from the 4 or 5 games I've seen him play this year, again, I think a lot of it's just defensively they're limited. Baycott makes that team better when he's healthy, because other guys can get open. They can, get their offense, and without Baycott, there's not as much. It's a different rhythm, or they can't quite get into their offensive rhythm, and that tends to hurt them a lot. And sometimes one player makes a big difference, and when that player isn't healthy, it could really affect you on both ends of the floor. So it'll be interesting to see how they do down the stretch. I know that I think his name's RJ Davis. He went down with an injury. You know, and that's a loss as well. So, Pete Nance, is having a solid year, but I think he could play better. Caleb Love, Love and Davis. I mean, that guard combo. I need to see more consistency out of them. And because they got some talent, but the consistency is not there as it should be. And speaking of North Carolina, they're going to play Duke this weekend. That's always a big game, so I'm going to watch that. And it's interesting that I don't know if this is the first time in a long time that neither of these two teams are actually ranked. So it it's a big game. It's a big game anyway because it's a rivalry game. But when they're both unranked and both needing wins to kind of stay, in the top 4 or 5 in the ACC, that's very big, very big. So, one of these two teams are either going to win this. They're going to win this game, and hopefully build off that, or one of these teams loses this game, and it could set them back even further. So I'm really interested to see which team shows up Saturday night at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So Sean says gel. No, this is a moose, actually. I created a moose. That's a man violation. I should be putting in gel or something else, but moose, very 90s. But yeah, I might do a pregame show for that game. Oh, nice. I'll definitely listen to that, man. We both needed exactly, yeah. For Carolina and Duke, like I said, RJ Davis got hurt. Hopefully he'll be ready to go. Caleb Love, that backcourt really needs to have a good performance Saturday night. And like I said, if they can win that game, Sean, they can really build on that. It'll get them some confidence, especially going into the final month of conference play and then the ACC tournament and then obviously the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, cannot wait for that. Well, with that being said, everybody, I'm going to take off, but I want to thank everybody for watching the show tonight. I know it's kind of came on late. I apologize for that again. Everything was a little discombobulated. I should have, I prepped, but I thought I was going to get off early today from work or on time, and I ended up working late, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. But I still wanted to do a show, get this one going. Again, we'll probably do this every Monday night. Sean, if I can get with you tomorrow night, that'd be cool. I'll see how my schedule's working out, but would love to do a show with you. Me and your college basketball fanatics. Yes, Scott Thaler, we love our sports. So, guilty as charged. So yeah, can't wait to talk hoops with you, Sean, and I can't wait to see that UNC Duke game and some of these other great games as well. So, with that being said, everybody, I'm going to take off. But thank you for tuning in tonight here on the 2-3 BenZone, and hopefully next time I'll be more prepared and ready to go for you. So, my voice is getting a little coarse there, because I am on the phone a lot during the day. So yeah, apologize for that. But anyway, I'm going to take off. Everybody have a good night, and I will see you later. Take care.